My name is Father Chuck Swanson, and I'm with Father Jeff down in Louisiana, down Zachary, Louisiana. I had retired, and I met him, and now I'm being trafficked. So anyway, my last name is Swanson. I'm a priest from the Archdiocese of Omaha, and when I first met him, he said, well, can you take care of my parish for a couple weeks? I got to go give a talk in Scotland. I said, oh yeah, I did. So then about a month later, he calls me again and says, you know, I'm going to Rome, and could you be there for another 2 weeks? I said, oh yeah. He said, why don't you come 2 or 3 weeks early? And now it's 10 months, and it's, the ministry is so important. I'm so happy that I'm involved. I'm so happy that I met him through my Archbishop. So, Father Jeff, would you like to start with a prayer?
First of all, I'd like to say, in order to be labor trafficked, you have to do some work. I haven't been able to get any out of them yet, but, you know, and I know it's on everyone's mind, what's going on in Israel. And it's just, so, you know, on both sides of the wall, there can be victims who are completely innocent, as there always are. And so let's begin with the prayer and pray for those people. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Good and gracious God, we come to you aware of the inherent dignity of each and every human life, and aware of the great sufferings and the great injustices in our world. As we gather together this evening to work for those who suffer the injustice of human slavery, we ask you to remember all the victims who suffered needlessly because of ideologies, because of policies, because of man-made destruction. So we ask that your grace and your peace be upon those people who are living in the midst of this war. And we also ask that you guide and direct our efforts so that those victims within our midst can find hope and healing and a future. We ask all this through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
First of all, as we begin this evening, I would like to thank Dale Flaman. Dale has put all this together in maybe 2 weeks, and he's been a great advocate for the cause. And to Father Juan for hosting us and allowing us to be here. I drank out of that one. Allowing us to be here and to say Mass and to use the facilities. Your congressman, who is a very dear friend of mine, French Hill, we met about 8 or 10 years ago. And although his wife is here, I'd say this publicly anyway. I deal with a lot of elected officials, and a lot of people leave their faith and their values at home when they go to work. Not French. He's a wonderful man. We met at a legislative network in Fatima probably 7, 8 years ago. He's been a dear friend, and I think with him in leadership, you know, the values of faith that we hold true are going to guide the decisions he makes. Needless to say, he got called back this afternoon to Washington in light of, he's on the Foreign Affairs Committee, so they're going to be quite busy. So we'll miss him. And we're also very happy to have with us one of the assistants from the Attorney General's office, Ryan Cooper. Ryan and his staff arranged a meeting for us back in the middle of August. And Ryan, are you free to stay, or would you like to do your part? Okay. And we had one other person by the name of Kevin Metcalf, who's a prosecutor from, what county is it in Fayetteville?
Typically Washington.
Washington County. Yes, and he had car trouble and couldn't make it, but he's your guy on the ground here in Arkansas. And for those of you who are at 8 o'clock Mass, some of this is going to be a little bit of a rerun, But when we talk about human trafficking, we talk about it not as a problem, but as a symptom. Think about this. We live in a society where if a college professor uses the wrong pronoun to refer to someone, they can lose their their tenure, their professorship. And yet at the same time, we have 50 million slaves worldwide. There was a 10 million slave increase after the pandemic. One of the reasons was that during the pandemic, no services were available. You couldn't make human contact. And for the people who were engaged in these awful things, I mean, they found that to be a gold mine for mining for people. I read a quote a while back, and it said, you know, first we ignore evil, then we tolerate evil, then we legalize evil, then we promote evil, then we celebrate evil, and then we persecute anyone who dares to call it evil anymore. For me, that's pretty much sums up the things that are going on. Living in a world with 50 million slaves, we have more slaves in this woke, aware, sensitive 2023 than we had in the combined 400 years of the African slave trade. 89.5% of the slaves are sold into sexual slavery. The other 10.5% are sold into forced labor and or organ procurement and forced marriages. Many third world countries will have families whose children are being forced, 13, 14 years old, being forced to marry a 50, 60-year-old man because they get a dowry. And these children, they're not going off to a honeymoon to live happily ever after. It's indentured servitude through marriage for a lot of young girls. Yes, go right ahead.
I was going to interrupt him on that. I just got,
Could y'all speak up just a little bit? It's just kind of reverberating. Just speak up.
Okay,
so if I talk like that, yeah.
go ahead.
I just got a letter from a friend of mine in Tanzania. He's an abbot of a Benedict monastery. And he knows that I'm involved with human trafficking. And then he wrote in there what's happening to him. And it's this forced marriage. And they run a school, and he would like to get the girls that are being forced into a marriage into the school. And they have no money, of course, so he's, asking for some help for me to get money. But that forced marriage thing is still going on. And these girls, he can take them into his, because they have a grade school and a high school. So if they force them at age 13, they can put them into the grade school and help them through the high school so they'll have some productive kind of thing. And he said, it's a money thing. It's the dowry. The families want that dowry. And so it really is trafficking. Trafficking by the parents to think about yourself if you were forced at age 13 to marry somebody who was 57 years old. So I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Go right ahead. You do it all the time. Of the 50 million slaves worldwide, the United States has the distinction of consuming 10% of the world's slaves. That means on any given year, there are 5 million people in the United States being bought and sold every year. 60% of that 5 million, so roughly 3 million, are under the age of 18. Of that 60% being sold under the age of 18, 30% of them now are young boys. So you have 2 million girls under the age of 18 and almost 1 million boys under the age of 18, and 90% are sold for sexual purposes. Now, you think about that, and you go, wait a minute, how does this happen? What are we doing? You know, and I mean, like I said, you get taken off of social media because you use the wrong language and someone thinks you're offensive. We got 5 million people being bought and sold every year. And the thing is that annually, pornography is $152 billion a year industry. Guys, this is primarily our sin, is pornography. Father Juan will probably bear this out, but as parish priest, hearing confessions with males, I'm going to tell you from the age of 12 to the age of 90, it's probably between 60 and 70% of all our confessions deal with online pornography. How many people look at whatever they want to watch and say, gee, I wonder if she's made her confirmation yet? That's not why we look at pornography. And we tell ourselves that it's a harmless crime. That's someone's son. That's someone's daughter. That's someone's child. That's someone's grandchild. When people really struggle with pornography as a confessor, I say, let me ask you something. Do you have children? Do you have grandchildren? I want you to put their face, a picture of them on your screensaver. And next time you go to entertain yourself, I want to know how you would feel if they were the star of the show that you're getting ready to watch. Because they are someone's child. They are someone's grandchild. We had an incident based on social media. Young girl lived in a gated community, the most expensive neighborhood in Baton Rouge. You know, went to a private religious high school, the most expensive in town, with friends at a party. And, you know, her friends were ready to leave. No, I'll catch a ride. And so she goes on Facebook and said, I need a ride to Connie's house or wherever she was going. Guy shows up, said, yeah, Connie told me pick you up and, you know, take you to her house. Her parents, who luckily had the financial means to do it, found her 14 months later in Los Angeles, sold into the pornography industry. By the time they got her, she was catatonic, just, I mean, absolutely no reaction, drug addicted, but she could remember that about 20 or 30 times a day, she was forced to perform in the pornography industry. And this sort of thing, it happens. It happens in our society. On the North Shore of New Orleans, we had a high school senior arrested for trafficking 2 freshman girls. He happened to be the big man on campus, the football star. 2 little freshman girls get there from junior high, and he starts paying them attention, and they're goo-goo and gaga. He's a big man on campus that everybody knows. He finally gets them to send the picture. You know what picture I'm talking about. They send him the picture. If you don't do what I say, everyone at school and your parents are going to get this picture. He was making $1,000 a week in high school trafficking 2 ninth grade girls. Here's a bigger question. Who in the hell raises a son who at the age of 17 thinks that that's acceptable? That you can do that? Who raises a child that has no more respect for the dignity of the human person than to think I can own 2 young girls that are 3 or 4 years younger than me? And so the reason why I talk about this as a symptom and not a problem is because there's something radically missing in our American society. And I told this morning at 8 o'clock Mass, but visiting with a parishioner, her husband was non-Catholic, and whatever denomination it was, there are 2 branches of it in the United States. You know, they divided. And he said, yeah, we no longer accept the primacy of Scripture. What does that mean? He said, well, we don't believe that we need to adhere to all Scripture. Oh, okay. Well, tell me, how do you decide what you accept and what you don't accept? He said, well, the ones that are in question come up and we vote on it. And if we vote on it, you know, either it passes or it fails. Look around. How many people believe in the supremacy of God? I know we do, and that's why you're here. But how many people in this country believe that I was created by God, I was created for God, and I was created to one day be with God? If I don't believe that, if that's not part of my belief system, then my fallen, sinful human nature determines what's right and what's wrong. If I like it, if it feels good, if I think nothing is wrong with it, then no harm, no foul, mind your own business. Now, we live in a country where we cherish our freedoms as Americans. And I don't want us not to be free as Americans, but I want us to be a nation under God. I want us to have a people who believe that freedom is only free in so much as we were able to be pleasing in the sight of God. And that's what is absolutely absent when you think about some of the things that we're going on, that we want to legalize, that we think is all about diversity, equality, and inclusion. No person deserves to be disrespected, because regardless of the choices they've made, they're made in the image and likeness of God. But that doesn't mean that we have to legalize, celebrate, and then persecute whoever still remains faithful to the law of God. And that's what's happening. And in light of that, we find ourselves in a country that has 5 million slaves. We work very closely with a former congressman out of Texas by the name of Congressman Ted Poe, wonderful man. But during his tenure as a congressman, they founded the Victims' Rights Caucus. And he, along with a congressman from California, were chairs of the Victim Rights Caucus. And he reminded me of this, that in the United States, we have over 5,000 animal rescue shelters. Each shelter has 100 to 1,000 places for animals that have been abused. If you're a PETA person, I got nothing against your puppies and kittens, okay? But for the 5 million people who are being bought and sold in this country every year, there are less than 800 beds. There are less than 250 for the 3 million juveniles that are being bought and sold every year. Now, to look at this, it's a very complex problem. We as church have to do our role. I mean, we're the ones who are here to preach the gospel, and we have to preach the gospel. And we have to remind everyone we're made by God, for God, to be with God. And we've got to instill that in the next generation and the generation after that. But until that's done, we need some protection for these victims. 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, a little town outside of Baton Rouge, they arrested the 6 Chinese women in these massage parlors. You know, some of them offer happy endings, okay? They arrested 6 women, ages 52 to 67, still being trafficked. 52 to 67 being forced to work in these parlors and offer full service, if you will. Those realities, a society is only as good as we treat our most vulnerable population. And we're not very good right now. We're not very good at all. And one of the things is people genuinely don't know. And Ryan is going to tell you towards the end about the governor's efforts and the attorney general's efforts to make this very much a part of your consciousness here in the state of Arkansas. But 5.5 years ago, January of 2018, we took our firstborn, young lady. And since then, we have had 88 residents in our home. 3 of them have been from across the border. The rest are local. 80 have been from Louisiana. 4 have been from other states. Now, human trafficking is going on the border. Make no mistake about it. Our own administration right now admits that they have released 85,000 unaccompanied minors into our country, and they don't know where they are.
This past year.
This past year, thank you. I promise you 84,000 of them are being trafficked. They're not in daycare. They're not in, Head Start programs. They're being trafficked. Once we get to the border and uncover the mole holes of the cartels, God knows how many that 5 million number is going to grow to. But I think it's significant. And whenever we go out and we speak, yeah, but we don't have that here, do we? Father Chuck, what's that answer?
My answer is, you have the internet. If you got the internet, you got the problem.
We work a lot with law enforcement. There was a website called Backpage, and Ann Wagner, the congresswoman from St. Louis, got together with President Trump and had that shut down. But before that, I was working with cybercrime and state police, and you go on Backpage.com, you click in escorts, and you say, you know, I'm in Blytheville, Arkansas, and I'm looking for entertainment. Within 3 minutes, you'll see 300-400 young girls in various stages of undress, no full frontal nudity, advertising what they do and what they won't do. And as you look through the pages, you start to see a lot of girls have the same tattoos. They all have the same tattoos. That's the way we brand our cattle today. That's what we do with humans. We don't use a branding iron, we use a tattoo parlor. And so you know who the girl belongs to by the tattoo that she has on her arm. Now, if you really want to get good and sick, on a national average, among the juveniles being trafficked here in the United States, 42% of them are trafficked by their primary caregiver. Their own families, their mother, their father, their mother's boyfriend, their uncle. For us, it's been closer to 70% of our children, but that's just the ones in our home. On the national average, 42% of the children are trafficked by their primary caregiver. And what that means is there's no place to go. We're not looking for family reunification. That's not our goal. Our goal is to get the children healthy enough so that when they leave us, they think they have a way to make a living other than their body and have enough respect for themselves and dignity. Now, dealing with the kids, and Father Chuck's going to tell you about some of our kids, but it's amazing. I mean, we'll have a 15-year-old who's been raped 3,000 times. What do you do? How do you see yourself? Who do you trust? You know, and these kids come to us, and they're so broken, and they're so hurt, and they're so angry. And you would think they would run to us and say, oh, thank you, you've rescued me. They don't know us. They don't trust us. At some point, according to the Department of Justice, 60% of the children who are in the foster care system get trafficked at some point in their foster care journey. So just because we've got them their own bedroom, their own bathroom, you know, in their own bed, doesn't mean they're going to trust us. One of the big issues is when our children come, 3-4 months, Father Chuck? They sleep in the closet. They don't want to sleep in the bed. Because at home, in bed, someone was always waking them up because we got to go make money. When they move out of the closet and sleep in their bed, we realize they're starting to trust us, that they believe that they're safe, that we're not going to hurt them. Most of our kids in the first month will probably gain about 10 pounds. They see all this food, and they eat, and they eat, and they eat. Because on the streets, maybe supper was a bag of chips and a soda, or drugs to kill the hunger. They see all this food, and after about a month, they can't get in their jeans. They decide to go on a diet, okay? But, you know, we have a 17-year-old came to us last week. We took her to the dentist for the first time in her life. You can imagine the gynecological and health issues that we have with these children after what they've been forced to do. And you know what? They're still little girls. They're still little girls. We're grandpas. We have one grandson. Francisco. But, you know, we're safe, we're old, okay? And the kids, but they're sweet and they're loving. They're just damaged and they're hurt. And one of the great things, and that's part of the reason why we're here in Arkansas, is we have a very competent staff, program director, a therapist, a teacher, a direct care worker. But our secret is we have 5 religious sisters who live in the house with these girls. For the first time in their life, they've got a mother figure. They've got someone who's there. Our children tell us that when they were in group homes and state homes, they never knew who was going to be there when they woke up in the morning. The nuns are there when they go to bed. The nuns are there when they wake up. The nuns are there to make them do their homework. The nuns are there to get them to school on time. We do in-house schooling. We don't let our children out. They don't have access to cell phones or the internet except for educational purposes. But they're safe, and they know it. And our program is not about seeing if we can convert these children to be Catholic. Our program is about taking care of children. And we hope they have a relationship with God as part of their healing. But on any given Sunday morning, you can find Catholic nuns at a Baptist church or non-denominational church, because that's where the kids want to go. And we have to go with them. We don't care where it is. We want them to have a relationship with God. We think that's a great part of their healing. That's also part of the symptom that has been lost in our society. And before I turn it over to Father Chuck, who says I talk way too much. If you want to get into this work, this is not social work. This is spiritual warfare. You know, you can like what I'm going to say or not, but it's spiritual warfare. We had some of our children, so sweet, so loving, and Father Chuck's going to tell you about them. I mean, they go from 0 to wanting to kill everybody in the house in no time flat. And they're, you know, it's like, what? What happened? Who did something? Who said something? Nothing. But they get triggered. When we go and we're there every day, we can't wear cologne. We have to be fragrance-free, because the cologne can trigger a memory that is horrific for the children. But, you know, it was just crazy. What are we not doing right? So I said, you know, these children have probably been exposed to cultic activity, probably satanic cult stuff, not in their own volition, but they've probably been exposed to it. So I called the diocesan exorcist, and I told him what was going on. He said, yeah, you got a problem. It's not possession, but it really is obsession. So we planned a field day for the kids. They all left, and the exorcist and another priest and myself said Mass. We ran around that house and we anointed every opening, every door, every window, every electronic device. We said the prayer of deliverance over everything. We had lunch, left about 1:30. The girls came home at 4 o'clock that evening. Now bear in mind, we didn't burn incense or anything like that. We just, with the oil, anointed openings. 2 of the girls, the nun said, go put your stuff upstairs. 2 of the girls came running downstairs. There's been a blanking priest in my room. Who let a priest in my room? They knew. They knew. So this is not social work. This is not just having a good heart. This is God versus evil in the world in which we live. And if anyone thinks you want to get involved or you want to help, and you're going to do it because you have a good heart, you need a lot more than that, sweetheart, because you're going to burn real quickly. And so it's a challenge. And now I'm going to let my elder say what he needs to say.
You know, you started out by saying, why have human beings all of a sudden being sold for somebody's profit, for their pleasure, or for, their possession? He talked about the girls being tattooed. I was in Las Vegas for a meeting of this. You know what they're doing there? They're putting chips in them. Not knowing the branding iron anymore, but, yeah, he mentioned that 42% are trafficked by their primary caregiver in the United States. United States is a little bit different than Europe. Europe doesn't have quite that kind of a problem. And that's an official figure from
The DOJ.
the Department of Justice. These are my next figures. And I'm right too, by the way.
He always is.
Yes, I'm right. 30% more are runaways. They're runaway, they get on the streets. Somebody who's being trafficked already says, oh, come on over here. I've got somebody here that'll take care of you. They got a nice place to sleep. You don't have to sleep out on the sidewalk. You don't have to worry about that. They go there and they eventually get involved into trafficking. And there are two types of traffickers. There's the Romeo trafficker and the guerrilla trafficker. Romeo, oh, sweetheart, you're so important to me. I love you, and and this, and oh, now, and I won't. We're going to have to pay the rent, and we're going to get kicked out. Now, why don't you start selling yourself? He doesn't do it that way, but do that. That's the Romeo one. He buys them a purse, does different kinds of things like that, and traps them that way. The guerrilla. An example, the guerrilla is the guy who says, I know your little brother. If you don't do it, I'm going to go break his leg. No, I know where your parents live. Burn that house down. Or he beats the hell out of them. That's the guerrilla one. And that's what these young people are facing so very, very much. The kids are, like you said, kind of sweet kids. I'm going to tell you about some of the ones that we've had over the years. And I'm not going to give you their real name. We're going to talk about Barbara. Barbara was 16 years old when she came to us. She's about that tall, cute little blonde. I mean, just pretty little blonde. Tough lady. She came out of the gangs down there in New Orleans and knew all the gang signs and that. When a girl comes to Metanoia, the sisters want to make them feel very, very welcome. And so they'll, right on the front door, they'll say, oh, Barbara, welcome. We love you. Thanks for coming here. And on their door, maybe they'll put, Barbara, we hope you'll enjoy your new room. They take balloons and those kinds of things, and they do that. So anyway, Barbara says, they don't know me. She tears that off. She puts, leave me alone. Don't knock on my door. Don't say you love me. Yeah. Barbara, when she came, had a binky. You know?
Pacifier.
A pacifier. She drank water from a baby bottle with a nipple on it. She had a stuffed animal, a lion, she called Leo. The binky disappeared, she would go crazy. Where's this? Who took my, and just go nuts like that. Probably that's symbolic of when she started being trafficked. She was smart, really smart. And I don't know what she, when the girls come, we give them a test and for the grade level because we have to help them catch up to grades. And our average is about fourth grade level. They can be fourth grade level. She was so smart, she did her high school equivalency in 6 months. Yeah, binky and all. 6 months. And she wrote poetry. She gave me some of her poetry. And I read it. The tears came. That's how great it was. And she was with us for a couple years, 3 years almost.
About 18 months.
Yeah. When she left, no binky, no baby bottle. No, and she was so traumatized that we have birthday parties for the kids, and we were having a birthday party for somebody, and they're fun. They get up and they talk and they dance and they do all kinds of crazy things, and they get presents and that, and it's going on. And I look over in the corner, and Barbara's rolled up like in a ball because something triggered it. That was her response. Now, we've also had them at birthday parties or something to pick up a chair and throw it through the window. You can say, sweetheart, why'd you do that? What's going on? What's happened? Father, I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I couldn't stop myself. I couldn't stop myself. So that reaction to that trauma that they've experienced. And it's so, so real. So that means, we have to have a psychiatrist, we have to have, counselor that does counseling, drug counseling, group counseling, horse counseling. We have equine therapy. When the sister said, we're going to get to that, and I think, horses, it's wonderful. It's really wonderful. They look forward to it, and they do so, that. I went there one time, and all of a sudden, the girls that are there, now, the youngest we've had is 11. I guess they've come to us when they're 11. And they can leave at 18 if they want to. They don't have to. We're the only trafficking shelter in the United States that will take a girl that is pregnant. In other words, we'll be able to take somebody from 0 to 21. We're licensed to do that. We're the only shelter in the United States that will take a girl who has a baby. She can bring it with her. Many of the shelters, if the girl is pregnant, force them to an abortion before they'll take them.
Can't come here pregnant.
Yeah. So, that's babe. He wants me to talk about Allie. You have a special relationship with this Allie, don't you? He really does. She was the 18th child of her father's, and the previous 17 were all boys.
By 11 different women.
By 11 different women. Yeah. Now she was kind of at the beginning, so, and we had a volunteer there that also had a girl her same age, and it was Easter coming along, and she thought, every girl needs a new dress for Easter. So I think we only had 4 kids then at that time, because we were just starting. And so she took them, bought them all new dresses, then took them to the hair gal, and the finger gal. And he got them all ready for Easter. And the Easter day, she invited them to her home. And they went there, and it's a very nice home. Has a stream in the backyard, and they got a pool. They got horses, and the kids were there and rode horses, and that, just a wonderful day, wonderful, beautiful Easter. And then about 11 o'clock at night, one of the girls is knocking on the sister. All the sisters live the same floor with the girls. So they can, if they're crying at night, they can, or they see their light on at night, they can, go in there and, hold them. Matter of fact, I think Allie was the, sister. Didn't she talk about sisters getting under the bed with her? Because she used to sleep under the bed, not in the closet, but under the bed. And she was crying one night, and sister, got down and went under the bed and
Crawled under the bed and cried with her.
held her hand. But anyway, the girl comes, sister, Allie's trying to hang herself. And what she did was took a cord and trying to put it over the shower thing and went in there and say, sweetheart, what's going on? Why are you doing that? Didn't you have a good day? I said, yeah, she said. But how come Mary, that's the girl's daughter, the volunteer's daughter, has such a life like this, and I've had a life like mine, that my father sold me over and over and over and over and over again? How do you answer that? Trauma. And that's what we do. We do trauma-based counseling. It's different than regular counseling. It's not as aggressive. You don't push it as much. They've been pushed too many already. And you give them time to settle down, and then you do it. And so it lasts a very, very long time. And I'm going to tell you, we have a survivor. A survivor is somebody who's been trafficked, and usually a little older. They're survivors. And Kelly comes in to help us with, dealing with the difficulties that we have. And Kelly's probably now about 45 years of age. Yeah. And she was trafficked by her father from the age of 3. Father got tired of her sexually. He was a real pedophile, because I think the pedophiles have a certain age group of girls that you want. And then he started selling them to his friends that were pedophiles and that liked older people. And of course she didn't. She thought that was normal until she went to junior high. Junior high, she started talking to the other girls and found out. Then she told on her dad. And he was arrested, went to trial, was convicted on
29 counts.
29 counts.
Convicted on 27.
And convicted on 27, and spent how long in jail, Father Jeff?
2 months.
2 months. Yeah. Yeah. And that was several years ago. We're much, much better now, we are. But that was several years ago. So anyway, Kelly, she had, I could spend the whole hour talking about what happened to her. But Kelly comes to Metanoia to help us. And she went on to get a master's degree in counseling. She opened up a counseling service for not only traffic, but all kinds of people. She was elected to the Colorado
State Assembly.
State Assembly. So she married Tim, who she really loved, and they had 4 children. I think they have 4 children. And I picked her up at the airport, and we were driving out to Metanoia because it was going to be one of those days that she helped. And we were driving out, and I don't know how we got to the subject. She said, I think we were just talking about what happens, to a person, how the trauma. She said, you know I loved him, and I trust him immensely. He said, but when my little girl Mary was born, and he was going to give her a bath, I walked past the door, back and forth, looking in. Wow.
Stays a long time.
Stays a long time. I was in Philadelphia, and there's an adult place, and they had three people there, three survivors there. And I went in there. They were 45 to 60 years of age. They really never had dealt with it, and so finally, they're trying to deal with it. So it's so difficult.
Let's get Ryan.
Yeah, I think better give him a break and get.
Now, as you can see, there's so many aspects of this. 27 or 29 counts guilty, 2 months in jail. Legislatively, judicially, Department of Children and Family Services, Children's Activity Centers, and Ryan Cooper. Come on up, please, Ryan.
Yeah, as Ryan's coming up, I'm gonna, I was going to give you my percentages. Remember, I started and then I got this, Anyway, 42% trafficked by the primary caregiver, 30% are runaways, about 20% are trapped from the internet. The kids get on it and they think they're talking to a 15-year-old boy, and then they go meet the guy and they get trafficked. And so, that's 92% of our own kind of kids. And so the media gets you to think everybody's being stolen. And it's not true.
So how long has this been going on?
Oh, I started 21 years ago. It's been going on long before.
21 years he's been working at it. So we're talking about the American kids. I mean, if you're 13 years old and you're being trafficked by a coyote and you don't have the language, you come here, you don't know how to dial 911, I mean, we're not getting them. They're there, but we're not getting them.
See, I told you Father Chuck's train of thought has no caboose. Would you sit down for a minute and let Ryan talk? Ryan.
Come on up, Ryan.
Thankfully, Ryan set up a wonderful meeting with law enforcement, DCFS, the AG's office, and they're really kicking off here in Arkansas. So Ryan Cooper from the AG's office is here to tell you about it. Thank you.
I appreciate. Can y'all hear me, by the way? Usually I don't have a problem getting folks in the back to give me a little north-south. I appreciate that welcome. I appreciate getting to meet both Father Chuck and Father Jeff. It was a eye-opening experience for me. I will not talk about what's going on as far as that what they're describing as much as I would love to say, and I was one of the people that would tell you I was a prosecutor in Northeast Arkansas for 15 years, and I had a small rural district, and 3 years ago they came to me and they said, this is going on, and I absolutely said, there's no way this is going on in my community. I was that person. I did not believe. I don't know if it's because I did not want to believe or just because I couldn't believe. You can't? Yeah. I got you. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know if it's because I didn't want to believe or I just couldn't bring myself to believe that it was happening. And I prosecuted sex crimes. That was mostly what I did. I mean, I had the gamut from hot checks to capital murder, but because of, I guess, the rural area, I prosecuted more sex crimes than anything, and I was still reticent to believe that we had human trafficking in my community. I would have doubted that we had it in my state, and I'm here to tell you, it is absolutely here, and it's been here, and Father Jeff's right, we have done a poor job. We have absolutely done a poor job. I will share just a little bit with you, then I want to tell you what Tim is doing because of meetings like the one we had with the fathers and some others that came to us. And again, thank you, Ms. Hill, for helping set that up. Tim has put together a human trafficking summit, and I'm going to leave the cards up here. It's October 16th and 17th. It's at the State House. It's 2 days. It's free. It's open to the public. It's catered. Father Jeff mentioned Backpage. Jessica Spingard from Backpage, she was actually one of the victims from that criminal trial. She'll actually be there. She's one of the speakers. But it's not just for law enforcement. Every time I talk to people, most people think that it's for law enforcement. It's not. It's for everybody. There's speakers that are going to speak on a variety of tracks. Now, obviously, there's a law enforcement component to it because the first thing we've got to do is recognize that it's here and recognize that how we see these girls and boys, honestly, when he said it, y'all, that's the most I get east-west from people when we start talking about the number of boys that are trafficked as well. But we've got to be able to identify it, and that's part of what we're going to do with this. The hotelier industry, which obviously is a big component of it because there's got to be a place for these people that are being trafficked to do what they're being forced to do. So they're going to be there. Truckers Against Trafficking is going to be there because you see a lot of that on the road. Arkansas has highway systems that connect us to everybody, so we are prime real estate for traffickers. We also have a large component that have rural law enforcement, and so there's not a uniform approach. So I'm not going to take a lot of your time. I want to share just one thing with you, and then I'm going to leave these cards here and then sit down and listen to the rest of them speaking. About 3 weeks ago, I had the tremendous, I'm going to get misty. I had the tremendous privilege to speak at a women's, a women's conference. It was my mother's church, and they had a women's conference from women all over the state there, and my mother asked me to speak. Sorry.
Don't apologize.
Sorry, Mom had me when she was 20 days after she turned 16, so we spent a lot of time together. Anyway, when I was done speaking, she gave me a bookmark for my Bible, and it said, "Maybe this is the moment that you were made for." And I'll tell you, when Father Jeff said, we have to remember that we're made by God and made in His image, I'm here to tell you that that moment is every single one, all right? You don't have to be Liam Neeson kicking in a door, all right? All you have to do is say something. Be a part of the solution. That's all it takes. A quote I like to paraphrase a lot is, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. So all I'm asking is for you to do something, whether it's say something when you see something that's off, whether you go home and you read more about what's going on in the state, whether you talk to somebody about human trafficking, do something. That's all I ask. If you can come to the conference, awesome. I'll be there with Chick-fil-A in my hand. I guarantee it. It's something that I absolutely do. But do something. And I want to end by saying thank you for allowing me to come here today. I appreciate it greatly. Thank you, fathers.
Ryan, don't worry. Some of my best friends are Baptists. We don't have to. No.
I prayed around a lot.
Let me, we had a fundraiser. I have to raise $850,000 every year to keep my children because I'm not willing to abide by the state and federal definition of women's health care. I'm not going to kill one to save another. I'm just not going to do it. People ask, what can we do? Parents, I really don't care if your children think you invade their privacy. Monitor their online activities. Monitor their online activities. And Ryan, this is something one of my board members has developed, Mike Carmacy, who has done the sex registry, for the country. He's got a program called Safe Neighborhoods, and it's for sheriff's offices. And you can, the sheriff's office buy the program, and you can call that office and register your IP address. And if ever someone who's on the registry contacts any one of your addresses in your home, the parents are immediately notified, which is a really good program. But the other thing, guys, teach your son what it means to respect women and your grandsons, the dignity of the person of a woman, and never ever let them see them as, gee, I'd love to get a piece of that, okay? That's an awful reality that people, when Father Chuck talked about seeing him as profit, pleasure, or possession, we don't see him as someone's soul, we see him as someone who might bring me pleasure. And I did it growing up, playing ball. That was, the bragging rights of stupid teenage kids. But, teach your sons about the dignity of a human woman, of a human person and a woman, and also the destructive nature of pornography. During the pandemic, when all of our children were locked out, there's a website called Pornhub. It's your one-stop shopping for everything pornographic. It was the largest demographic to access Pornhub during the pandemic was 10 to 14-year-old males. Now, listen, when I was growing up, I had 3 older brothers. I had to work to find pornography, but I found them, okay? I found my brother's Playboy in the top of the closet. We're not talking about Playboy anymore, okay? We're not talking about a picture. We're talking about something really, really insidious. And every kid who's got this has got the ability to do that. And when you think that we have a generation of young males growing up thinking what they saw online is what's going to happen one day when they grow up and get big and get married, I hate to tell you, people don't swing from chandeliers at home, okay? That's not what married love and married life is about. So please, people say, what can we do? Protect your own first and work to do that. But we do a fundraiser. Like I said, I need to raise $850,000 every year to take care of my kids. And for my fundraiser last time, I asked my firstborn, who's now out and expecting a 3rd child, by the same man. They're not married, but, baby step here, okay? But she's been together with the same guy, and they're expecting their 3rd child. I said, would you please write a note to tell the people who are going to be at the fundraiser what our program meant to you? Shortly after my 17th birthday, I was rescued by the FBI after a year and a half of captivity. My name is Martha, and I'm a survivor of human trafficking. I was scared and dehumanized. I didn't have trust in people at that point in my life. Sidebar, when she went to court, her mother brought her trafficker as her date. That all changed for me when an opportunity being placed at Metanoia presented itself. I was hiding and running from the monster. He was not locked up, and I didn't have anything of my own. The outfit I had on was all I had to bring with me. A few days into hiding, a member of my rescue gave me a few pamphlets trying to find me a safe place given the fact that my trafficker was still free. One of those pamphlets was Metanoia. I had nowhere to go that was safe, so I knew I needed help. Given the nature of my own traumatic experience, I was hesitant, but nonetheless ready to move on. Metanoia is where I wanted to go. My guard slowly came down as time went on, and the first time in forever I had peace. I went from living in and out of hotel rooms to having my very own room where I wasn't being taken advantage of. And these beautiful sisters who took care of me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who I got to form a bond with and grow attached to. I formed bonds with them because I knew that they were there for me. I went back to school and finished my general education, which opened up doors for me as an adult to be accepted into college as well as job opportunities. I met some amazing people who volunteered and took me under their wings. I needed counseling, and they got that for me, allowing me to process my trauma and heal. But most importantly, I was baptized and continued to go to a church that I chose, and I still go with my children, also helping me heal. If it wasn't for Metanoia in the home they provided, I wouldn't have been able to get through this time in my life. So that's what we want to bring to Arkansas, you know. I hope we can do it and not have to have someone pay $850,000 a year like I do to do it. But that's what we're about. I've got some cards from our fundraiser, and they got the QR code. If anybody wants to give $10 a month, $20 a month, that's a big deal for us. But anyway, now we're open to questions. So Ryan, Father Chuck, or myself. Yes, Steve.
I want to do something. I'm Steve Finnegan. You've heard me on the radio. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I had Father as a guest on my show yesterday. And I've had a couple people in the audience ask me if I really, when I make a promise, do I follow through? So yesterday I promised Father on the air with probably 40,000 more witnesses locally, and God knows how many online, that I would donate yesterday's salary. So Father, I'm going to come up now and write you a check.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. We had fun on the radio. We're going to do it again. But needless to say, yesterday's news day had a much different bent, and we had to do that.
It was kind of crazy. So make it to Metanoia?
Yes.
So now you all know. And tomorrow I'm going to get tested for the 2 girls with cancer to see if I can match one of them and donate marrow. I kept that promise too.
All right. Anyone have questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
First question is, how does a child get placed with you? How
What-
do they find you?
All right. Well, you know, first of all, we're licensed by the state. We have a custodial issue. Okay? Our children come to us through the Department of Children and Family Services, the Office of Juvenile Justice. They've been forced. They've gotten arrested. Their trafficker was making them shoplift or do whatever, you know. And so when they realize they're trafficking, someone's got to have custody. We're a licensed operator for the state of Louisiana. We have what we call an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. But actually the state of Louisiana has custody. So we take private placements from FBI. We've had children come out of Children's Hospital. We do the Department of Children and Family Services, and we've had out-of-state placements. And one of the things is, and it's part of our success, you need to know what you're capable of doing and not doing. We can't take a child that needs to be detoxed. We can't take active psychosis. We're not equipped to handle those. Once they've received treatment or once they've been detoxed, then we can take them. So there's an interview process where the child, if it's a distance, the child can do a Zoom, and then the staff leaves, and we put one of our residents on with the girl, because they'll ask another teenager what they won't ask us. And so then we make that decision. Do we take out-of-state children? Yes. We've got one from Chicago, one from North Carolina. We've had them Florida, Alabama. Where else? This last girl was Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how to do it. Our website is on this card. We can be contacted through the website. But obviously, if you know of a situation, someone in authority has got to do that placement. Yeah. Yeah, that's how it happens. And so here again, that's why what we're doing, the AG's office needs to do it, law enforcement, judiciary, everybody needs to know what's going on and what our options are. PBS is doing a documentary on our shelter. It's being released in Louisiana this month and nationally in January on human trafficking. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for, I work with teenagers, I'm a pediatrician. Is there a pattern to markings that you would be looking for? I mean, I see a ton of tattoos, also see a lot of sexual trauma. Is there any kind of recognizable way of suspecting marks that might be pertinent?
Marks?
Yeah, tattoos, et cetera. Is there any, have you guys ever seen a pattern of tattoos?
No, I mean,
No, yeah. So sometimes they'll tattoo them here,
under their lip,
under their lip.
in the vaginal area,
Yeah. So if you see
know.
that, then that's a
behind the
pretty good,
ear. Yeah.
pretty good thing. But
What, for just an everyday person, like you say, that doesn't happen here, well, I guess it does. What, I mean, I know if they hold up a sign saying, help me, you kind of get, they need help, but is there something that kind of?
Well, there's suspicious behavior. You walk in a store and you got a guy in his mid-20s, he's got 3 teenage girls with him. They're not his daughters. They all kind of dressed up like hoochie mamas, okay? And they're all playing up to this one guy. No one has 3 girlfriends at one time following him, right? I mean, that just doesn't happen.
don't approach them.
And first of all, they always talk for him. If you're in a medical field and a 35-year-old man brings in a 16-year-old girl, could be her daughter, right? Could be. But, when you're talking to the child and the child doesn't answer, the adult answers everything. Well, we need to do an x-ray. You can't come in the room. Break that child away from that adult. If you're in the medical field, you've got children, and this happened in Nebraska, 3rd and 4th grade kids falling asleep at 9 o'clock in the morning. They all had skin rashes. Well, they were being trafficked in a meat packing plant, to work with these chemicals all night cleaning up, and they were falling asleep. Most kids don't fall asleep at 9 o'clock in the morning. They're usually hyped up and they've had breakfast and that sort of thing. So things like that.
So the teacher reported it, and it was going on, and that's how they found 50 kids working this packing thing. They were a little older than that. They were about 12 years old.
The other thing is never confront a trafficker. If you're going to sell an 11-year-old child, you don't have much respect for anybody's life. But gain information. If you've ever got a child that you're thinking if you can get a chance to just talk to them maybe without that person around, ask them what their address is. Don't you live over here? What's your address? They don't know an address because they don't have one.
Okay,
It's-
what about our own kids? What we can do so if they do.
Watch the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, is there any kind of signs that because I saw a video when there was a girl at a mall and the man walking, the girl kept doing something with her fingers. I think she was doing 4-1. And the woman realized something was not normal, but she did confront the man, but they were in the mall, so somebody came and helped.
I don't recommend you do that. I recommend wherever you are, make sure when they walk out, you can get a license plate number.
Yeah, just stay
Call
away
law
from them, get the
enforcement,
license
say,
plate.
something's really funny. I'm over at, Walmart on this road, and, a red Toyota just left, and this is what's going on.
It's sorry.
Yeah, Ryan.
It's subtle. I couldn't do it here. There's some segments on it that are at, as far as identifying it, that'll be at the summit. The one that, I'll give you one that sticks out to me that I never thought of, and it being from a rural area, just didn't click, when I visited with the speakers. Something simple like you see an older person and a younger person going into the bathroom together, and that person, the young person comes out with somebody else. And it doesn't even click till later that that's what happened. So, but it's subtle stuff like that. On the tattoo front, the only ones that have any kind of uniformity are when the gangs do it, and then they kind of share them around. But it's subtle. It's not something that I can say, these are the things you should look for.
Yeah.
Without going through the, like, an hour and a half of what they're gonna do.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
I'm saying, like, I have grandchildren, what can we do? They got lost at Magic Springs, and, I mean, what if they got trafficked? How can they, we need to start teaching a code for our kids.
Well, absolutely. I can tell you this, your kids need to be aware that it's happening and that it's a real danger. Father Chuck's right. That phone in their hands is the gateway to it. Like, monitoring that is what's gonna tip you off. In my opinion, that's what's gonna do it. So,
Yes.
I was gonna say, a friend of mine is a reserve deputy, and she was in her car right over here in line at Jimmy John's on West Markham over by Hobby Lobby. You probably all know where that is. And she was waiting in line, and because she's had law enforcement training, she noticed there was a man walking two young children into the woods over there. And if y'all know that area behind that bank, that a lot of homeless people live there. And she was watching him, she realized that what did not look right. And then because he was on the phone while he was taking the two children toward the woods. And she called an officer, and a little bit later there were a couple of guys, kind of scuzzy looking guys, walking toward the woods, and that's what that situation was. They had those two kids there that they were gonna sell in the woods, in the homeless encampment.
Yeah.
So it does happen a little lot, it's eerie.
Yes, ma'am, right here.
I can give her a suggestion on grandkids, don't ever let your children go to the bathroom, public
Oh, I
bathrooms
wouldn't,
by
no.
themselves, because a lot of
Yeah.
kids have been abducted. In fact, they've shaved their heads and they come out looking like a different person, and some parents didn't catch on.
But I wish we could do some sort of something
There
to
is a
make
hand
people.
signal, I can't remember
Yeah,
what it is.
that's, I thought
can't
she was
remember
doing
what
like
it
the child
Or
with,
something, and they have helped some kids that have used that hand signal, like going through the
Yeah.
fast food. Yeah, I can't
Okay.
remember what it is.
you need to pass
Yes.
that around.
Did I pick up correctly that, since you were coming to Arkansas, to promote it, to present this, are you wanting and intending to go to other states with Metanoia?
Well, what we,
I'm in Mississippi, I'm here visiting myself,
oh, where in Mississippi?
Hattiesburg.
Oh, okay. What we want to do, and we work with Ashley Lucas in the governor's office in Mississippi. But what we would like to help do is replicate our model. So if Arkansas says, we would like to create a children's home, can you get some sisters? And we will, you know, having the right people on your team. And I was very lucky early on to have a lot of people who really covered up my ignorance. And when I say covered up my ignorance, I had the right heart and I wanted to do it, but that doesn't mean I knew everything. You know, it wasn't until this girl I just read the letter, you know, her trafficker was free, and she went to court 4 times and never got past a motion hearing. And then she aged out, and she said, well, the hell with it, no one cares about me. I'm locked away in this home, and he's out there free. And so, you know, and the kid's right. The kid's right. Here's this guy who for 2 years sold you and abused you, and not a damn thing happens to him because our court system is so screwed up, and we play these games, and this child's a victim.
You know, and yeah, it's the second next to drugs for money making, for criminals. And it's high profit for low
Risk.
One thing I want
risk.
to point out too that people might not know, Philo Rose, who actually was Protestant,
Yeah.
converted, became Catholic, was live action, and she started with the millennials
Pregnant.
underage prostitute and probably a victim of human trafficking and wanted an abortion because she was pregnant. And so the abortion industry makes a lot of money by aborting these children, not only just to get them into a house and father. I knew there was no way you condone something like that, but this is something else to know, and this is where I'm glad in Arkansas that we've shut this down, these abortion clinics. But
Yeah.
you can see same kid in there every few months that's pregnant, they abort the babies and make the money because the traffickers, it's
Adult victims average a minimum of 3 abortions.
Yes. And about 60% of the have abortions.
Yes.
It's huge.
As you can tell, I'm an older woman, I'm 73. I've been in the business of keeping after girls since 19, I don't know when, too long. But I'll say one thing that I see is an increase of trafficking of the young girls, Spanish. I'm from Eagle Pass, Texas. If those of you have watched the news, that is the high part. I was born there, and I still have relatives back home. And what we call every night because we have a rosary that we say every single night, and they tell us of the amount of young girls coming over.
Unaccompanied.
So many, and that they're just, telling other girls in the city, you can make a lot of money, this man's gonna take us. All it is human trafficking, sexual type.
Yes.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And they're coming to this area here.
Oh, or the,
Martha, I don't know if French told you or not yet, but he and I are going to the border together to try to find some fact finding on this and come back.
I'm going with you.
That's fine.
Martha.
Yes, Mark.
Father, explain about the movie, and everybody thinks that it is a Latin American issue.
Yeah.
Because you haven't really talked about the movie.
Angel Studios asked me to preview the movie, so I saw it last May online. And it's a powerful movie. It's done a wonderful job of raising an awareness of the problem. But if you look at the movie, you would think it only happens in Colombia, Nicaragua, and Honduras. And you would think you need to be a trained special ops to affect a difference, okay? Now, I'm not at all knocking anyone. It does happen down there. And what this guy did was heroic, so I'm not knocking that. But ours is much different because our victims are local. In Europe, it's the mafia, Romanian, Albanian, and
Russia.
Chinese mafia control the European market. Here, it's local pimps, and on the border, it's cartels. It's organized traffic and cartels. But, and this is a question that I have. I was amazed when the movie came out how the liberal media and how Hollywood were so interested in discrediting this movie. Now, and I'm drawing a blank on the Homeland Security guy's name. No. The agent, Tim Ballard. Now, Tim Ballard, I know Jim Caviezel. He's played some great roles. I don't think he's wrapped real tight, okay? But with that being said, they decided to attack the persons and say this problem doesn't exist. I don't care what you think about the people. That's not the issue. We're buying and selling children in this country, and Hollywood and the liberal media did not want us to face that. Now, I'm in a occupation where, unfortunately, we've had great scandals with people dressed just like me. And every one of them has been in the paper repeatedly, time and time again. And I'm not opposed to that. If they're guilty, I'm not opposed to that at all, okay? But how come we can't find out who went to Lolita Island with Jeffrey Epstein and all the people? Who are they protecting? Who are they protecting? Well, there are a lot of names on that list that we'll never know, but every priest who's ever inappropriately touched a child gets more media than anyone else But why are they so opposed to people fighting against the exploitation and sexual selling of children?
Father, I can give you an answer on that because I've got sources from the show and everything else, plus my own military background. It used to be during the Cold War, whether it was KGB, CIA, Mossad, the British MI6, it didn't matter. If they set you up with what's called the honey trap, they used another adult. If you were homosexual, they'd find a woman or a homosexual guy, and then they entice you, they film it, and then they flip you. That's what happened with the Marine in Russia, except for that was a heterosexual. Children were always off limits. None of the intelligence agencies use that. Now I'm sad to say that I'm getting feedback from certain places that I can't say who to protect sources are saying children are no longer off limits and used to compromise people.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
I have one quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
How, do you have information that we can share with family and friends so that things that you shared with us today that
I think, is this being videoed? Yes. I'm sure it can be made available. We've not said anything that'll incriminate us. I'm fine with it. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that the sisters bring to it that we haven't said is the average time of somebody working in a shelter is about 6 months or less. So the kids never know who's going to be there. And there are also 3 different shifts. And so, you know, being able to trust in that just really, but the sisters are there 24 hours a day. And our sisters have been there 5 years.
Yeah, 5.5.
5.5. So that makes a whole difference. It really does make a whole difference. And they, you know, and they love the kids. They do, like, teach them how to brush their teeth, teach them how to make their bed, teach them.
Saturday morning's chores. We got to mop floors. We got to.
They do their own little laundry. You know, the things that they should have gotten when they were growing up, and they didn't get it.
They do what our mamas did
even the
for
women's
us.
health things. The sisters can teach the girls there. That kind of thing.
Yes.
Are you saying that this summit, that this thing, that is this what we're starting here in Arkansas, to address these issues that exist?
Yes. We got these cards.
That is actually to raise awareness of the issue. Raise awareness on the issue, but there's also a variety of things as far as some training that will go on. But that's not really the only thing that we're doing in Arkansas. Several of the legislators will actually be at the summit because we started passing. I'll tell you, y'all, in my opinion, we're way behind, and we started real late. I don't think anybody would have a problem with me saying that where I work, but we're making the efforts now. The last legislative session, we passed a few things to try to beef it up. I think we'll continue to do that. And then the governor put out an executive order in February to try to get a uniform response because the state as a whole does not have a uniform response to either identifying human trafficking victims or what to do once you identify them. So we're fragmented throughout the state. Urban parts of the state, like Little Rock, does a great job. It's got all kinds of services that can be provided. The northwest corner, the FBI is very active up there. There's all kinds of services up there that provide. But the rest of the state, it's hit and miss. And so law enforcement doesn't know what to do with the victims when they get them a lot of times. Prosecutors are the same way. It was that way when I was up there. And so part of what we're doing is trying to get a uniform response because first you have to be able to identify them, so we're trying to put together a uniform screening tool. Once that happens, then there's going to be a uniform action throughout the state as far as what you do when you identify someone. Because you have to treat, and they did a phenomenal, I can't tell you how impressed I am with these guys. You have to treat a human trafficking victim, and trust me, I'm not the guy with the answer, but I've been told that you have to treat a human trafficking victim different than you would, say, your regular sexual assault victims because they've been programmed for so long. It's like the little girl that started when she was 3. That's just what they know. And to get them out of that, the way it was explained to me was this. Because I said, obviously, why would they just jump at the opportunity to leave? And they said, Brian, it's about, they know what their day's gonna look like, but the unknown that you're offering them is way scarier than what they've become accustomed to. So,
And
that's what we're
Yeah, and that,
the trauma is very specific. So you get oppositional defiance disorder, you get drug issues, you get runaways. They don't go with trafficking victims. Trafficking victims have a specific trauma that has to be addressed, and they have to do it together. We've learned a lot. We've got a lot more to learn, and we're hoping. And the other thing that I did, Ryan, was I did liability's an issue. Is always an issue. You know, you can get a little girl who ran away from an abusive home in Chicago 4 years ago, and you know, mother and boyfriend is still doing drugs and haven't even looked for her. But if she ends up in my shelter and hurts herself, now they want $5 million for their precious baby that they've, you know, had sleepless nights over. So liability is an issue. We set up a 501c3 limited liability corporation, you know, and so if someone sues us, they get a whole lot of black clothes that don't fit them and some pipes that they don't want. But no, I mean, I don't recommend the diocese do this. We might ask the diocese for a facility that's not being used, but we need a separate corporation because you know how lawsuit crazy the world is in which we live. And when you've got children who are so traumatized, there's always an issue. Okay, I'll shut up, go.
no, I want you to tell them about the priest program.
Oh, yeah, I mean, how many of you have heard a sermon on human trafficking? How many of you have heard a sermon on human trafficking? Ryan, how many of your your mom's ladies group have heard? We would like to train the household of faith as to, you know, how to preach about it. And some people get upset. You know, I mean, oh, you shouldn't be talking about this in church. Well, good. Let's talk about how many angels can fit on the head of a pin. This is where we're living, okay? This is what's going on in our community. This is where the gospel needs to be preached.
And the priests don't know what's going on.
They don't, nor the bishop,
No, they don't.
nor the pastors.
Like I didn't.
So to educate them, and the reason why I say that is I gave a talk in Rome at the Graduate House of Studies, a place called Casa Santa Maria, and there was young priests who had been sent back for further studies. And so I had about 40 priests there, and I gave a talk. Oh yeah, but we don't have that in California. Right, you don't have it in California. Okay. But afterwards, a young priest from Louisiana came up and said, look, he said, my dad just retired. He was a contractor. And he has an apartment complex, 24 units that he gave me. He said, I don't want it. And he said, can I give it to you to use for the girls? Well, it was in Bunkie, Louisiana, 3 miles from where God lost his shoes, okay? And there was no room for educational opportunities or employment opportunities, so I couldn't use it. But I guarantee you, when you bring it to the household of faith, after that sermon, someone's going to say, you know what? My grandmother died 2 years ago, and we hadn't gotten rid of the house. We don't know what to do with it. We'd like to use it for something good. Do you have any use for this that we could use as a transition house or something like that? We need to get the message to the household of faith, and we'll be glad to help you all, you know, in doing that in the state of Arkansas. Yes.
The diocese, we can pray people, we've got all these groups and we meet about everything, but if more things are wrought by prayer, why can't, if this is a spiritual battle, I don't care, Baptist, Protestant, whoever you are, prayer is our answer.
You believe in God. Well, yeah,
We need help too.
we need prayer, but we need boots on the ground.
But for us who can't do that, we can be your prayer.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
My mother had on her thing, God helps those who help themselves. So
Yep.
exactly, that's exact we need the prayer, but we need to do our part too.
Tell them how you're doing this internationally and how you're talking to people internationally.
Well-
That's how I met you.
Yeah, we were at a conference in Portugal for the International Legislators Network. And Father Chuck and I have been working for the last 5 years, 6 years with the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences. And in 2013, when Pope Francis was elected, there was a fellow Argentinian who was the head of the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences. He said, I want you to tackle this for me. So we've been working with that Pontifical Academy. The bishop was just here. He left Thursday night. Father Chuck and I have worked with him a great deal. And we brought in 26 nuns from Nigeria, and Father Chuck did a 9-day training, and then we did a 30-day internship, and those nuns are now in Boston, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, Houston, and Denver. We're spending a couple weeks in India in January. There are 5 orders of religious sisters who are willing to come. But you know, when we do this, immigration issues, and Ryan being with the government, you know, immigration issues, they can cost us between $7,000 and $10,000 a head. You know, so we're thinking about bringing them to the Mexican border and but anyway, no, and have this administration pay for them. But anyway, so we're working globally. I opened up my first house in Lagos, Nigeria. When I say I opened it, I sponsored it with contributions I got for a place called Bakitha House in Lagos, because a lot of the African nations, the girls are transported from Africa to be slaves in Europe. And then once they're repatriated, if there's not a place for them, the traffickers get hold of them in a very short amount of time. So we opened up a safe house in Lagos, Nigeria. And then I financed a home in Anzio Beach in Italy. It was really pretty cool. You know, if you remember World War II, the Anzio Beach invasion, and my home is about 6 blocks in back of the American Cemetery in Anzio Beach, and it was St. Angela Merici's parish convent that was rehabbed to be, and as you know, she was martyred at the age of 12 to save her virginity. So that was my second home. And my third home is now in Zachary in 2018. And I labor traffic a priest who says he works there real hard, but I don't believe it.
Father, stand up and give her your blessing, because their rear ends are getting tired.
All right. All right, well, look, we're here. If you would like a card to find out more about Metanoia, if you're up to it, and $10, $20 a month or whatever helps us budget. You know, if we know we got that $20 coming every month, we budget it, and we beg, borrow, and steal to make $850,000 a year, but whatever you can do.
But that's not the reason we're here.
No.
The reason we're here is what we've been talking about.
We
Appreciate it, but that's not why. So don't look on it as,
yeah.
you know, it's not a missionary appeal, period.
We really hope to be able to support all the wonderful efforts that are now beginning in the state of Arkansas through the AG and the governor's office.
So they don't make the same mistakes
We did, exactly.
You know, we learned a lot. And the sisters, you know, not only learned a lot of new words, but
Try explaining the F word to a Filipino nun. Father, what does that mean? It means forced unnatural carnal knowledge. It comes from the English prison system, sister.
I have to ask one more question, because I see, you kind of mentioned some white hairs in the
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious who you are training to do what you do.
So are we. So are we. As you know, you used to have 2 assistants here, you got 1. And every diocese is in the same situation.
yeah, and I felt, yeah.
Go ahead.
And I celebrated my birthday last week, there's 28th, and I was born in 1940. I'm not going to tell you how old I am.
He and Jesus went to grade school together. And I'm 70, so we are looking for the next generation of clergy.
I have my son was ordained a year and a half ago too.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you.
So I talked to him about you this morning. He said, yes, I heard that they were coming. He wasn't able to be here today, but,
Get him to tell your bishop to have us come do that morning of recollection for the priests and deacons.
Yeah, and all this started through the Order of Fleur-de-Lis with the Knights of Columbus, so that's really why we're here. Met Lloyd, met Dale, and they've put this together, and we're hoping that on a larger scale, something can develop. So we're all in. We're on the bus, and Lord's driving it, so, you know.
Well, you got a deep media voice that anytime you want it, you guys are welcome, because I made a solemn vow to God that I'm going to fight this with every fiber in my body for the rest of my life till we eradicate it or Jesus' feet touch that.
Well, you got my phone number. You know I'm very shy, and it's hard to get me to talk, but once I get going.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming. Let's say a little closing prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord, in your love and your mercy, send your Holy Spirit upon us, the spirit of courage, the spirit of wisdom, the spirit of determination, and the spirit, most of all, to desire never to let any of your children ever be harmed and ever be abused. So we ask you, Lord, let us leave here with determined hearts, because no one can do everything, but everyone can do something. So let us do our part to save the children made in your image and likeness. And may Almighty God richly bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.